I mean, I like kind of rag on Michael Jordan here a little bit, and I think we were a similar ilk with the Jazz. I like where guys just tighten their belt up and say, you know what, let's go to work. We just got to get better.
Yep.
We got to play harder. We got to play smarter instead of just, where's the grass greener? I'm going to go there and win a championship.
Yep.
I think it devalues that. You're not climbing the mountain, you're taking a helicopter to the top.
Totally agree.
John Stockton sat there calm as ever, ice in his veins, and dropped one of the coldest reality checks the league's ever heard. He looked straight into the camera and said, "You're not climbing the mountain, you're taking a helicopter to the top." That line wasn't random, it was a dagger. Everyone knew exactly who he was talking about. Stockton delivered it like a man who'd spent 19 brutal seasons in the trenches, fighting tooth and nail, never begging for super team help or sympathy from the media. This wasn't some influencer chasing clicks. This was Stockton, the silent assassin with 15,806 assists, built on grit, patience, and loyalty. He never whined about teammates, never ran when things got tough, and never needed headlines to prove his worth. So when he called out the so-called greatest for taking shortcuts, it hit way harder than any old-school rant ever could. Stockton wasn't complaining. He was exposing the truth about what the game used to mean. See, in his world, loyalty wasn't a weakness. It was a weapon. Staying with one team wasn't wasting your prime. It was showing pride in your grind. It meant you bled for your colors, no matter how many times you got knocked down. That kind of mentality doesn't exist much anymore, and that's why this shot from Stockton shook the whole basketball world.
Starting a free fall. I think the Bronny thing started the free fall. I think people around the league are looking like, yeah, you're LeBron, but you're not 27-year-old LeBron. You're not even 34-year-old LeBron. Like, you're an old man now who's dictating and destroying the Lakers because you want your son to play, and look what's happened.
So yeah, hit that subscribe button because this might just be the crack that rattles LeBron's entire legacy. And trust me, the next chapters are about to get wild. Now about that helicopter line. It wasn't just old head talk. Stockton was making a statement about a whole culture shift. When he said climb the mountain, he meant the real grind, the kind he and Karl Malone lived through. Years of heartbreak, battles with MJ, and still showing up hungry for revenge every season. No shortcuts, no switching sides, just pure smoke and pride every single night. Yeah, the contrast is screaming loud. The second things got tough in Cleveland, LeBron packed his bags and jetted to Miami to team up with Dwyane Wade and Chris Bosh. When that started losing its shine, he ran it back to Cleveland, this time rolling deep with Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving, and when that crew finally cracked, boom, he was off to LA with Anthony Davis waiting on the runway. Every time the climb got steep, LeBron found himself another helicopter waiting to lift him straight to the top. But here's where Stockton's words really hit. He wasn't just talking about switching jerseys. He was exposing the difference between building something and buying something. The Utah Jazz didn't recruit a dream team overnight. They built their empire from the ground up. Draft picks, player development, team chemistry, and culture. It was blood, sweat, and loyalty, every step earned. Meanwhile, LeBron's squads, man, they looked like they were created on a video game. Big names, blockbuster trades, instant hype. Sure, LeBron's got rings, but Stockton's point was never just about hardware. It's how you win that defines your legend. And more people are starting to side with that mindset. Because when the smoke clears, the question becomes, what's left when the cameras stop rolling? That's where the real test begins, the retirement test. No one talks about it enough, but retirement exposes the truth. When the lights fade, the sponsorships fade, and all that's left is legacy, you see who truly built something that lasts. And right now, that test might not be too kind to LeBron. Look at the pattern. It's getting ugly. Michael Jordan's legacy didn't just survive retirement, it evolved into myth. We went from MJ might be the GOAT to MJ is the GOAT to nobody will ever touch MJ. Every year, his legend gets stronger. The flu game feels more legendary. That push-off on Brian Russell looks more like art. Even his failures, like getting swept by Boston, became part of the story that made him greater. His career aged like fine wine, not fast food. Now look at LeBron. The cracks are showing while he's still playing. Be honest. When was the last time a LeBron performance made you jump off the couch screaming, "Did you just see that?" When was his last jaw-dropping moment that felt immortal? Even the sports talk shows are starting to whisper. Retirement might not be kind to him, and deep down, he probably knows it. Because here's the truth. LeBron's entire GOAT argument is built on volume, stats, longevity, and consistency. But the moment he retires, those numbers freeze. And when they freeze, people start comparing, really comparing. 21 seasons sounds historic until you realize that meant years of just hanging around, padding stats instead of dominating. Being the all-time scoring leader sounds epic until you remember. It took him more games than anyone in history to do it. And then comes the biggest stain, the super team era. When time passes and people look back, they'll start asking the question nobody wants to touch. How many of those rings did LeBron really earn the hard way? Because Stockton's helicopter line is aging like premium wine. It just keeps hitting harder every year. And the wild part? It's not just about LeBron anymore. That line taps straight into a way bigger issue in basketball today, what everyone's calling the authenticity problem. Stockton represents something that's disappearing fast, the raw, real, no-filter version of the game. And fair or not, LeBron is starting to look like the poster boy for everything fans can't stand about the modern, media-controlled athlete culture. Stockton spent 19 straight years in Utah. Not exactly the Hollywood of basketball. He could have pulled the superstar move and demanded a trade to LA or New York. He could have teamed up with stars to chase easy rings. But he didn't. He stayed, fought, built, and kept showing up for the grind. That's what authentic looks like. Now look at LeBron's career. It's the total opposite. Every step feels like it was drawn up in a PR meeting at Clutch Sports. The decision? That wasn't basketball. It was a made-for-TV event designed to launch a brand. His return to Cleveland? It didn't feel like redemption. It felt like rebranding. Even his posts today look like they went through 3 editors and a marketing team before hitting Instagram. The man's playing chess in the media game, but fans are starting to see through it. One radio host even said it out loud, Hall of Famers who used to stay silent are finally talking. These legends can smell when something's fake. They came from an era where sweat, blood, and loyalty told the story, not camera crews and hashtags. And they're tired of seeing the sport turn into a glossy business operation. They're calling it like they see it. LeBron turned basketball into a corporate empire, while guys like Stockton kept it pure and personal. But here's the wild twist. This authenticity gap isn't just turning old school players off. It's turning fans off too. Remember when that same radio host said teams don't even get emotional when LeBron leaves? That's crazy when you think about it. Because it's true, LeBron has never truly belonged anywhere. Miami, Cleveland, LA, they all cheered when he came. But when he left, it wasn't heartbreak, it was business. Appreciate the run, good luck on the next stop. That's the vibe every single time. When Jordan left Chicago, the entire city was crushed. It felt like the soul of the team walked out with him. When Kobe retired, LA treated it like the end of an era. Fans cried like they lost family. But when LeBron moves on, it's just headlines and contract talk. That says everything. And that, right there, leads us straight into the most brutal part of Stockton's criticism. Because this next part, it's personal. This isn't just basketball anymore, it's about character. The Bronny factor exposes everything Stockton was warning about. If you really want to understand why LeBron's legacy is starting to slip, just look at what's going down with his son right now. Because this whole situation, it's the helicopter to the top mindset playing out in real life. No metaphors needed. LeBron basically forced the Lakers' hand into drafting Bronny. Not because he was a top prospect, not because he dominated college hoops, but because LeBron wanted that father-son on the court moment. And let's be honest, LeBron always gets what he wants. That's not ambition anymore, that's control. Instead of letting Bronny grind through the G League, earn his stripes, and build his own story, LeBron airlifted him straight into the NBA spotlight, skipping every step that's supposed to shape a real player. Everyone in the room knew it, but they stayed quiet. Because when LeBron talks, franchises listen. And here's the part that's really damaging. It shows LeBron will put personal legacy over the team's future every single time. The Lakers didn't draft Bronny because they thought he was a hidden gem. They drafted him because they were terrified that saying no would mean losing LeBron. The front office saw the writing on the wall, upset the king, and watch your whole empire crumble overnight. That's not leadership, that's leverage, and fans can feel it. Even insiders around the league are whispering the same thing. Yeah, you're LeBron, but you're not that LeBron anymore. You're no longer 27, flying over everyone. You're a veteran superstar twisting a franchise's arm to secure minutes for your kid. And that's a bad look, no matter how you spin it. It's harsh, but it's real. What LeBron is doing with Bronny looks exactly like what privileged people do everywhere, using power and access to give their kids a head start regular families could never dream of. And that connects perfectly to Stockton's whole mountain versus helicopter metaphor. Stockton's own kids had to climb on their own. No shortcuts, no favoritism. None of them got fast-tracked into the league because of who their dad was. They had to earn every step. That's what climbing the mountain looks like. Pain, patience, persistence. Meanwhile, Bronny's path looks like a VIP express ride to the summit, and everyone watching knows it. But here's the kicker. The Bronny situation is just the tip of a much bigger machine that's been following LeBron for years. And that machine, it's Clutch Sports. Most fans have no clue how deep this thing runs. LeBron isn't just a player anymore. He's the architect of a full-blown media and power network that moves behind the scenes across the entire NBA. When that radio host said, "Stockton does not work for Clutch Sports and will never work for Clutch Sports," that was more than a joke. It was a warning shot. LeBron's reach stretches far beyond the hardwood. Clutch Sports represents a whole lineup of top NBA stars, controls high-profile deals, and even shapes narratives through their media ties. They influence free agent decisions, sway draft choices, and quietly pressure coaching changes when needed. It's not just basketball. It's business, power, and influence, all wrapped around one man's orbit. When LeBron wants something done, he doesn't just ask. He activates an empire. And that's exactly what makes Stockton's old-school words sting even more. The game used to be about who could climb the mountain. Now it's about who owns the helicopter. LeBron doesn't just play basketball anymore. He runs an empire. And he uses that empire to make sure everything he wants happens exactly how he wants it. That's why guys like John Stockton can speak their mind with zero fear, while most current players and even media personalities stay quiet. They're tied into the Clutch Sports machine. Cross LeBron and suddenly your invites dry up, your interviews disappear, and your name stops getting mentioned on the big networks. That's real power, but it comes with a price. Because here's the truth. Every time LeBron made a business-first move, his basketball authenticity took another hit. The decision? It wasn't just about hoops. It was a televised branding event. His jump to the Lakers? That wasn't just for another championship. It was a full lifestyle play. Hollywood deals, media access, production companies, and post-retirement comfort. Fans see it. They feel it. LeBron's decisions don't feel like basketball passion anymore. They feel like corporate strategy sessions in sneakers. Every move, every statement, every headline, it's all so perfectly polished, so carefully timed. And that's the opposite of what Stockton stood for. Stockton didn't need cameras or campaigns. His only question was simple. Does this help us win? That's it. No brand building, no media angles, no empire thinking, just pure basketball built on sweat, loyalty, and the will to compete. And the longer time goes on, the more people are starting to crave that kind of purity. So that brings us to the million-dollar question. Was John Stockton actually right? Is LeBron's legacy going to shrink in retirement while Jordan and Kobe's only get bigger and bigger? Because all the signs are pointing to yes. And it's not even just about basketball. It's about the entire culture shift. People today are tired of perfect. They don't want scripted moments or polished PR posts. They want something real. They want heroes with scars, stories with struggle, journeys that feel earned. And that's the problem. LeBron's story doesn't feel like a grind anymore. It feels like a campaign. Sure, the stats are crazy and the success is undeniable, but emotionally, it's hard to connect when everything feels pre-planned and manufactured. Look at the legends that fans still worship. Muhammad Ali, Jackie Robinson, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. They didn't just win. They suffered, they sacrificed, they fought. Ali gave up the best years of his career for what he believed in. Jackie Robinson took hate straight to his face and changed history. MJ got brutalized by the bad boy Pistons, then came back as a monster and took over the world. Those stories hit because they were about battling adversity, not dodging it. That's why people still talk about them decades later. They were human. LeBron's story? It's about optimization, control, and calculation. Every win feels engineered instead of earned. And in a world starving for authenticity, that might be the one thing even the king can't buy back. Every single move LeBron makes feels perfectly calculated, smart, strategic, bulletproof. It's genius business, no doubt. But here's the truth, it doesn't build mythology. It doesn't create those goosebump moments that turn a player into a legend. And that's the part that should keep LeBron up at night. Because the younger generation, they don't feel LeBron the way older fans once felt MJ or Kobe. To them, he's not a hero. He's a brand, a global marketing machine with a PR filter and a production team polishing every quote before it hits the internet. They see the polish, not the passion. They don't see struggle, they see sponsorships. And when LeBron finally hangs it up, he won't have that loyal army of fans defending his legacy in barbershops and debates the way Jordan or Kobe still do. He'll have Clutch Sports dropping press releases and dropping slick documentaries on streaming platforms. But you can't manufacture love. Real loyalty doesn't come from branding, it comes from believing. And that's the kind of connection LeBron never truly built. That's why one radio host said it straight up, in 10 years, people might rank LeBron 5th or 6th all time. And honestly, that might even be generous. Because once the business empire fades, the sponsorships dry up, and the media hype goes quiet, all that's left is the basketball. And when you strip everything else away, no cameras, no campaigns, no business empire, and just look at the game itself, LeBron's GOAT case suddenly starts to look shaky. Meanwhile, Stockton spent 19 straight years climbing the mountain. He never reached the top, but his legacy? Untouchable. Everyone knows he gave everything to the climb. No shortcuts, no excuses, no drama, just relentless grind and loyalty. That's why he's remembered with respect, even without a ring. LeBron, on the other hand, reached the top again and again, but the higher he went, the more people felt he was flying there by helicopter instead of climbing. That's why Stockton's helicopter line hit so hard. It wasn't just a diss, it was a reminder. A reminder that legends aren't remembered for how perfectly they played the system, but for how real they stayed when no one was watching. LeBron spent 2 decades building a business empire, but somewhere along the way, he forgot to build a legacy. He optimized everything, career moves, media, image, endorsements. But in chasing perfection, he lost the story. He skyrocketed his brand to the moon, but his authenticity paid the price. And now, as the clock runs out, those shortcuts, those polished moments, those business-first decisions, they're all starting to catch up. The mountain is still standing, waiting for someone brave enough to climb it the hard way. Stockton never stood at the summit, but he'll forever be remembered as one of the few who earned every inch. LeBron? He conquered the peak, sure, but history might remember him as the man who took too many shortcuts to get there. And that's the ultimate difference between being great and being remembered as great. Stockton just reminded the world which one actually matters. If this breakdown hit you with a new perspective, smash that subscribe button, because we've got more deep dives coming into the stories that define real basketball greatness.